Hello, everyone, and welcome to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodriguez. I'm super excited to be with you tonight because it's the first time we are actually doing this show on a Monday. We've been doing this every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, but now, starting today, we will be seeing each other every Sunday through Thursday here on Z Sports Dallas Primetime, except when the Cowboys play a primetime game. Because then, as you might have already seen in the Z Sports Dallas social media accounts, we are actually launching a game day show that will be hosted by Skywalker Steele and, of course, former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Jesse Hollis. So we will be here every Sunday through Thursday, except when the Cowboys play primetime games. However, if the Cowboys are playing a noon game or an afternoon, a 3:25 p.m. game, we will be seeing each other here at Z Sports Dallas Primetime at 8 p.m. Central. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about that next step here in the show, and I'm very excited about what we are bringing to you over at Z Sports Dallas. And of course, you can also check out azsports.com/Dallas. Thank you for joining. What's up, Asmodeus? What's up, fam? What's up, Brian, as well? Frankie, shout out Frankie. And of course, Beaver, who is here in the show as well. Thank you all for joining. Make sure you hit that like button. Of course, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please share the show before we begin it officially. And now that more of us are here, we can actually do that. But first, let your friends know that you're watching Z Sports Dallas Primetime. Now that more of us are here, whoa, Lunatic dropping the Spanish in the chat. Saludos, Mauricio. ¿Qué onda? Says Lunatic, dropping the Spanish. I like it. What's up, Lunatic? Thank you for joining tonight. So, well, let's start the show off officially. Welcome to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday here in the show, and of course on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way for the Cowboys 2021 season, which is finally here. Head over to azsports.com/Dallas. Also, shout out Dwayne, who is also here in the chat. So make sure you like that video and make sure you share it as well. We have a packed show tonight because, well, the kickoff is only days away. The Cowboys are playing the Tampa Bay Bucs on Thursday night. They are opening the 2021 NFL season, but it will not be easy. And I think that Dak Prescott knows that pulling off this comeback from injury is not going to be easy, but he keeps getting reminded that it's actually tougher than it looks like. And the latest evidence, or the latest way in which Dak Prescott was reminded of this came on Sunday when Zack Martin tested positive for COVID-19. He is expected to miss the game, even though it's not 100% confirmed, because according to Mike McCarthy and according to what he said on today's presser, if Martin shows no symptoms and he tests negative 2 times before the game, which would have to happen on Tuesday and Wednesday, then he would be available to play for the Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Bucs. It doesn't sound like the Cowboys are expecting that to happen, though. And Mike McCarthy actually was asked about this, and he said Martin is as out as he could be right now. So I think that the Cowboys are expecting Zack to be out for Thursday's game, even though it is not 100% confirmed yet. But when you take into account the fact that Martin just tested positive on Saturday, and he was actually showing flu-like symptoms then, it just seems unlikely that he's going to test negative 2 times and going to have no symptoms before Thursday's game, when you include the fact that McCarthy is telling us what he is telling us. So I don't expect Martin to play versus the Tampa Bay Bucs. However, everything can happen. What is up, team? Thank you for joining the show as well. Eliazar, hello, Coco as well. C. Burleson here in the show. Scotty Williams over at Facebook. So we have people on Facebook. Thank you for joining the show. Mendoza one more time. And thank you, James, Carlos, and everyone for being here. And of course, the Cowboys have been very, very hurt by COVID-19 before the season. And of course, most players are already back. Connor Williams is also back from the COVID list. And Noah Brown might be one of the next Cowboys to be activated from it. However, Zack Martin is a tough blow for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll get into why as well in a few minutes here in the show when we talk about Tampa Bay's defense. However, losing Martin is never a good situation. But the Cowboys have some good news as well coming their way thanks to La'el Collins and what Collins has been able to achieve in practice. He was a full participant yesterday, Sunday, and he was a full participant today, Monday, which was a big deal because this time was the first time that the Cowboys have been practicing with pads as they prepare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. So Martin was actually a full participant, and other than that, among the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster players, only Ty Nsekhe was actually limited in practice. So those are very good news for Dallas Cowboys. Of course, a step in the right direction for Collins. He might be able to play versus the Tampa Bay Bucs, I think, at this point. After the fact that he practiced today as a full participant, he should be expected to play, probably. And Chauncey Golston, a surprise full participant as well. We knew that he was not going to start the season on PUP, and we were surprised by that. But I expected him to be inactive for a few weeks. And he might be inactive for week 1. But the fact that Chauncey Golston is also a full participant in practice, the third-round rookie who has been away from the playing field for a long time now, or had been away from the playing field for a long time, I've been impressed by the fact that he's a full participant as well. Dak Prescott, Donovan Wilson. So the Cowboys are pretty healthy right now, except for the players that were already placed on injured reserve. But especially the La'el Collins news I found to be very, very promising. So we have Fercho here in the show, Ferchoing, asking about Kelvin Joseph. He will be out. Kelvin Joseph will be out at least for the first 3 weeks of the season since he was placed on injured reserve after originally making the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster. Dwayne says regarding Zack Martin, I heard on NFL Network that he had symptoms, so maybe it would be a miracle for all of us Cowboys fans and a team. That's the thing that I'm the most concerned about. We know, because the Cowboys basically told us, and Michael Gelkin, for example, reported it as well from the Dallas Morning News, we know that Martin had these symptoms. So I agree with Dwayne. It feels like it would be a miracle if Zack Martin plays on Thursday. But here's the thing. How concerned are we about Martin not being out there on Thursday? I realize in my opinion at least, he is the Cowboys. He is the Cowboys' best player. And I like Dak Prescott a lot, and I think he's the most valuable player on the Cowboys. But if we're not talking about value, if we're talking about who's the best player in the Dallas Cowboys roster, he definitely is Zack Martin, in my opinion. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are we on Conor McGovern starting this Thursday? Because McGovern is going to be the Cowboys offensive guard out there over in the right side of the offensive line. And let's assume for a minute here that La'el Collins is actually playing. If La'el Collins is not playing, well, we should be very concerned about whatever is going to happen in the Cowboys' right side of the offensive line, because it's not a great situation to have, say, for example, Conor McGovern and maybe Ty Nsekhe. And that's even a maybe because Nsekhe was limited on today's practice as well. So McGovern, if we're talking about, if you wanted an offensive lineman, a backup offensive lineman playing, if you had to pick just one, it might be Conor McGovern. You might prefer Conor McGovern to be playing instead of an offensive tackle, in my opinion, because the Cowboys' backup tackles have not played well lately. And I think that even though McGovern has had his bad moments, he's a consistent player overall. And we know, and here's the thing, I'm seeing a lot of mixed answers here. Randall says 9, so Randall is very confident about McGovern. Eleazar goes with 7.5. CJ says 6. Lunatic 6 to close to 7. I will say 7. I will not go as low as 6, but I will not go very high either. D-Town says 8.5. McGovern will do just fine. Randall also says 9. About a 7. I do like what we saw in McGovern last year, says Team. And that is an important point from Team. McGovern actually played well in 2020. Now, do not forget what we talked about here in ADC Sports Primetime a few weeks ago when we were talking about Connor Williams experimenting at center and stuff like that. Stephen Jones had a very interesting comment on 105.3 The Fan when Stephen Jones said that McGovern was still competing to be a starter. And even though we kind of knew that he was not going to actually start for the Dallas Cowboys, we all expected the Cowboys offensive line to feature Connor Williams at left guard and Tyler Viadic at center. But Stephen Jones did say that. And I think that the Cowboys coaching staff and the Cowboys front office has looked at Conor McGovern as a potential starter for quite a while now. So I can bet you that the Dallas Cowboys are pretty confident on Conor McGovern. And I think that that was backed up by his 2020 play, as who had mentioned it. Someone mentioned it, as Team did in the chat. So I'm pretty confident about McGovern starting. Now, I've seen some, so for example, I know Randall does not mean it in that way here in the chat. He says, as long as the O-line protects Dak. I know this is not what Randall is trying to say, but I've seen some people in social media say like, you know what, we should rest Dak Prescott. And that is just ridiculous, right? Like, even if Lyle Collins does not play, you have to play Dak. You have to play Dak because we are assuming, of course, that Prescott is actually healthy from what we've seen. Not only because the Cowboys have told us so, but because we have seen Dak Prescott practice now. We have seen him make the throws. We have seen him on the move as well. You have to play Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys are not even going to consider not playing him, even though I've seen that in social media, and I've been surprised by those takes. I just wanted to take 2 to 5 seconds to say, that's just not going to happen. The Cowboys are not going to sit Dak Prescott down. And you need to trust Dak Prescott that he will be able to perform even without Zack Martin on that offensive line. He's had enough rest, LOL. He's playing. Yeah, exactly. You have to, as Tim is saying. Dak brings the best chance to win a game no matter what. If the Cowboys compete against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's likely going to be because of Dak Prescott having a great game. Where Skywalker still, says Jake, the great Sky is still here on ADC Sports Dallas, of course, every weekday morning, and he will be with you as well on game days, joined by former Cowboys wide receiver Jesse Holley. I will be joining you though every night at 8 p.m. Central Time, so you are more than welcome to stay here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime, Sunday through Thursday nights. Not play Dak, somebody dropped on their head as a child, said Lunatic. Yeah, I was very surprised by those takes. And that's why I wanted to take a brief moment to say that's just not a possibility. And I've seen these takes like, it's not about beating the Bucs, it's about protecting Dak. It's about beating the Bucs. It's about getting that win, of course. And if there's one player that can get you that win, it would be Dak, of course. So don't believe those comments. I mean, it's just not possible for him to not play. Imagine what his reaction would be if the coaching staff even suggested that. So don't expect that to happen, and expect Zack Martin to miss a Thursday night game, even though that will suck if that ends up happening. And of course, miracles can happen every once in a while. Miracles can happen, but you know, it's looking like Zack Martin will not play. He might get those negative tests and he might show no symptoms anymore, but it doesn't sound like the Cowboys are very optimistic about this. Connor will be okay, says Cactus, and I do agree with that. I think Conor McGovern, I mean, he will be okay for what he is, right? An offensive guard that he might be we don't know yet. He might be a solid player in the regular season. We saw him play solid football in 2020, but it's going to be different to watch him play with a healthier offensive line. He was in a bad spot. The entire unit was in a bad spot last year because you had no tackles, you had no starting quarterback. Now it's going to be different. Conor McGovern is going to play with a starting offensive line, and you will see a significant drop-off, but not because Conor McGovern is going to play bad football. You're going to see a big drop-off because Zack Martin might still be the best guard in the NFL. He's only rivaled in that conversation by Quentin Nelson from the Indianapolis Colts, in my opinion, at least at guard. So it's going to be a big drop-off, and it sucks not to have Zack Martin for the NFL kickoff, but the Cowboys should be okay, and it should not impact what we're expecting from the game in any major way. And even the betting spread has not changed a lot after those news. And we will get into the betting spread, and we will get into what people are betting on as we close the show later tonight. McGovern is solid enough to bridge the gap until Martin returns, says DJ's World. 30% of rain for Thursday night in Tampa, and D-Town was actually asking any concerns about it raining. If we are talking as it relates to Dak Prescott's health, not really. I mean, Dak is supposed to be 100% physically speaking, at least. At least that's how the Cowboys have handled this entire situation. And I think that's why they were very conservative. So I'm not really concerned about Dak's health, physically speaking, anymore because of the rain, even though I get where the concern comes from. But I think he should be ready. Where I'm a little bit, where I wonder about regarding how Dak will look is the mental aspect of things. Quarterbacks, when they're coming back from an injury, they see ghosts and things like that. And actually, I'm going to skip. So we will get into the Cowboys pass catcher that we might be overlooking in a while. And I will get into the direct impact from missing Zack Martin on Thursday's game by talking about the most scary players probably right now as we head into the NFL kickoff from Tampa Bay. And those are the team starting defensive tackles, because today, Ndamukong Suh was actually activated from the COVID-19 list, and he will play versus the Cowboys on Thursday. So will Vita Vea, and this is a very scary duo from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, Ndamukong Suh, who has played 16 games in 10 out of his 11 seasons in the NFL. He was the 14th defensive tackle with the highest pressure rate in 2020, as he racked up 6 sacks and 19 quarterback hits. So Ndamukong Suh is still as scary as ever. And as for Vita Vea, even though he missed a lot of playing time in the regular season last year, he did end up as the 5th defensive tackle with the highest pressure rate in 2020. And even though he was injured and he came back for the postseason, he was still dominant. He was still dominant after the injury. So these two guys will rival the Cowboys' interior offensive line, and it's a battle that they are likely to win. The Cowboys, you will have Connor Williams, Tyler Viatich, and Conor McGovern dealing with those two. Now, having Zack Martin in that offensive line is a game changer, because you know that whoever lines up in front of him, Zack Martin will likely take him, right? But not having him will be a big impact because of these two. Now, the Tampa Bay Bucs are a very smart team when it comes to their blitz packages. And we saw the perfect evidence for that came in the Super Bowl versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when the Bucs were injured throughout the entire offensive line, and Tampa came in with the perfect game plan to exploit that. And they were very aggressive last year. And as you can see there, in 2020, they had the 5th highest blitz rate in the entire NFL. They blitzed 40.2% of the time. And I think that the Bucs know very well that this is Dak Prescott's first game since week 5 of the 2020 NFL season. They know very well that the interior offensive line might be the weak link of the Cowboys unit. And we know that the attack is going to come one way or another. So I'm very excited about this coaching battle, because you have, Joe Philbin, Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy trying to adjust for that and trying to be ready for one of the best defenses in the NFL, because they are one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I know by now, I'm confident that you have heard about Tampa returning 22 starters. That much we know. But the fact that number isn't even the most surprising to me. Tampa does not only have 22 starters returning on defense. They had 31 players on their team to log over 200 snaps. Those 31 are coming back. The whole 31 that played over 200 snaps. So if you played more than 200 snaps for the Bucs last season, you are coming back 100% to the team. So that means not only 22 starters, but also 9 other players who were very important to your rotation. And on top of that, you had the flexibility to go pick an edge rusher in the first round of the NFL draft because you thought he was the best player available, and that was Joe Tryon. So I am very excited to see if the Cowboys are going to be able to adjust for that. It will be very interesting. And actually, Lunatic kind of making the same point as me here. He kind of nailed it, in my opinion. Kellen Moore will need to adapt and overcome versus Tampa Bay. Game plan will definitely change with 70 out. What will the Cowboys do? Will it be about quick passes? Will it be about Ezekiel Elliott being an important piece in the pass blocking support, or a tight end being important in that aspect as well? But yeah, without Martin playing, I see the Cowboys doing a lot more about outplays and screens. And it will be very interesting to see that as well, because if there's one strength in that Tampa Bay Bucs defense, it's about those linebackers who are the modern linebackers who can actually be very, very fast. And you know what Lavonte David did, for example, in 2020, as this quick, fast linebacker that might end up becoming the norm in the NFL, and they shine against these kind of plays. So it simply will not be easy for the Dallas Cowboys. Once that shakes off that first tackle, he'll be good, says Tino. And I hope that's the case. And I'm betting that he will prove that to be the case, Dak Prescott. We know he's mentally tough. He just needs to go out there and finally show us it, because we have not seen it with our own eyes. We're still going to do and better than a lot of people think, says Anthony, and we will get into that as well in a few moments. But I agree with Anthony. I will tell you that I think that the spread in the betting world, in my opinion, it's a bit too high, in my opinion. Over here we have somebody saying, I don't think you can change the game plan much with Martin out. I just hope we can impose our will. Well, there's only so much you can do about not having an offensive guard healthy. So we will see how it goes for the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night. We ain't scared of the big bad wolves, says Ronnie. Audio is fine on my end. I can hear you, said Dwayne. Oh, well, Stevie Max says the audio is fine on my end. I hope that's the case for everyone else as well. So anyways, the Cowboys, a big challenge at the offensive line. And we know that if the Cowboys are going to have a shot at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it will be because of the offense. We're talking about the players that are returning to Tampa, the fact that they ended the season as the hottest team in the NFL, because they truly did, even though throughout the regular season, they were this team full of ups and downs. Football Outsiders has this stat that they call, well, it's called variance, as a mathematical term, but it measures how volatile a team is from week to week. And Tampa ended 32nd in the NFL in that stat. So just like they can show up and be the best team in the NFL one week, they really lowered their level of play every once in a while. And probably the biggest example of this came against the Chicago Bears when Tom Brady was holding up his four fingers, looking at the camera, very confused. Well, he was not actually looking at the camera, but it looked like that for a while, and it was pretty funny. So we don't know exactly what version of the Bucs we will see on Thursday night, but I think we can all bet that we will see the good kind of the Tampa Bay Bucs, especially because of what we've heard about Tom Brady learning the playbook halfway through the season. It might be an exaggeration from Brady, but there might be some truth to it as well. But here's one thing that actually concerns me the most. Tampa, at the beginning of the season, was very conservative on first down, especially in early quarters. So, for example, they were running the ball about at a 67% rate on first downs during the first quarter, and they were being very predictable. And even there was a point in the playoffs, including the Super Bowl, in which they were being very conservative and they were running the ball. And the worst part of it is that they were not being efficient. They were not getting results in the running game, even though they were overusing it. So we don't know if that's going to happen again in the kickoff versus the Dallas Cowboys. but we know that they are likely to perform, because if they try to run versus the Dallas Cowboys, a Dallas Cowboys team that finished last year as the worst against the run, that are missing Neville Gallimore for this opener, we know that the Tampa Bay's offense will be difficult to stop for the Dallas Cowboys. If they want to stay in this game, it's got to be because of the offense. And we've talked about Amari Cooper, about CeeDee Lamb, about Michael Gallup, and it being one of the best wide receiver units in the entire NFL. But maybe we are overlooking Blake Jarwin, in my opinion. And here is why specifically. I'm assuming that Blake Jarwin will end up being the Cowboys' starting tight end, because I believe he has that ability, and I believe he's a better option over Dalton Schultz. I'm sure there will be some disagreement in the chat, and I look forward to reading your opinions as well. But I think that Blake Jarwin is the best Cowboys tight end on the roster. Having said that, the Tampa Bay Bucs defense was number one in efficiency versus the run. They were a very aggressive team when it came to the blitz, as we were seeing earlier on the show. Number 5 in the NFL when it comes to blitz rate. So we know they're very aggressive, and we know what results they were able to get in 2020. But there was one department in which they struggled. They finished the season 25th in the league versus tight ends, measured by Football Outsiders DVOA, which basically measures value per play and efficiency. So this team, this Tampa Bay Bucs team, was a tiny little bit vulnerable versus tight ends. So I'm looking towards Blake Jarwin being a potential X factor for the Dallas Cowboys in this opening kickoff. I know we do not know a lot about Blake Jarwin, and I know we might be betting a lot on Blake Jarwin because that one time in which he scored 3 touchdowns versus the New York Giants in a season finale. But if Tampa struggles even a little bit versus tight ends, it might be the route to take, right? So it would be an interesting plot twist from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is just speculating, of course, and you never know how actually relevant these stats can be. But if there was one department in which Tampa struggled, it was that. So I'm interested in seeing if that will translate into Blake Jarwin, as D-Town is saying, tearing up those seams with Dak Prescott. Can Dak finally beat a winning team is a question, says Cactus. I mean, Dak has beaten a lot of winning teams. And I know this stat is used very often in any Dak Prescott discussion. But I mean, the numbers are out there, right? Dak Prescott maybe struggled versus winning teams in 2019 and 2020 and even maybe 2018. But I think that even in 2018, he actually had decent league average numbers versus winning teams. But it's not because of Dak Prescott only, right? It's about the entire team. And if you look at what Dak did in 2016, in 2017, and in his early years, to call them some way, I mean, every team struggles versus winning teams. That's why they are winning teams. There are a lot of arguments to realize that this storyline might be a little bit overblown, in my opinion. Like the storyline of Dak Prescott not being able to beat a winning team. And now the Tampa Bay Bucs are not only a winning team. They are kind of, a super team, not to be pessimistic, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are very good. We got a chance, y'all. We can give up on Uncle Charles. Thank you, Uncle Charles, for being here on the show. It just takes one hit on Tom Brady to rattle the senility loose and to send him to a nursing home, says William. So William just wants to get rid of Tom Brady once and for all. Every quarterback has difficulty versus winning teams. Exactly. Even players like Aaron Rodgers, even players like, even Tom Brady himself, his numbers go down versus winning teams. That's why they are winning teams, and that's why this is a very competitive team in which we don't see unbeaten teams or 15-1 teams or things like that. So that I also agree with that. I agree with that. And as Ronnie says, go look at the records. And if you do that, if you go look at the records, you will probably be surprised if you like to use that argument. So that would be a fun exercise. I will try to do so for tomorrow's show, and we will talk about that here in the show. So I'm looking for Blake Jarwin to have a great game versus the Tampa Bay Bucs. Jarwin has other games where he excelled. Witten came back and stunted the team's growth in 2020, and I agree with that. What the Dallas Cowboys did at tight end in 2020 was not fun at all. In 2019 was that when Witten came back. Our defense needs to have 11 hats to the ball, limit Tampa Bay's yards after carry, because Tampa Bay would love to have a short pass into a big play. UNC, I have a face for radio, says Lunatic, but I missed what he was trying to reply to. Hope Kellen Moore changes his red zone play calling. This will be big. This will be a big storyline for the Dallas Cowboys in 2021, because it was not only in 2020 when the Cowboys struggled in the red zone. We actually saw a little bit of that in 2019 as well. And even before Dak Prescott's injury, we were seeing that as well last season. So I agree with that. Let's see how the Cowboys are able to exploit. And it was not only about Kellen Moore, in my opinion. We saw a lot of bad execution from the Cowboys players in the red zone, at least from the Cowboys backup quarterbacks, which of course is to be expected. But there were some situations there in which, you just wondered out loud, what is Andy Dalton doing? And situations like that. So anyways, watch Tampa win. It's rigged. It's the opener, but I hope we shut them down. Now, listen, right now, and we will do final picks and final predictions before the game on Wednesday night. We will do that, and I will share with you my score prediction and everything. I think Tampa wins, though. Spoiler alert. But I don't think it's rigged. The NFL, I promise you, it's not rigged. The NFL, you don't have to rig the NFL to make any kind of money. So, Brandon says, if you're still hating on Dak, middle finger to you. And I don't think anyone is. Well, at least so far, unless I missed a comment or two. Everyone thinks the Bucs are world beaters. They got hot at the right time. People forget that the Chiefs lost the starting offensive line before the Super Bowl, says TLW. And this is, again, another interesting point. And as we were saying in the show earlier in the show, what I wonder the most about is the Bucs ending the season as a worst team in terms of variance, the least consistent team in the NFL. So just like we can get the best version of Tampa, the Cowboys could get an average version of Tampa. But even still, the Bucs were still, I know they got hot at the right time, and I know the best version of Tampa came in the NFL playoffs, but I'm not entirely sure if that's even the case. There were some points versus the New Orleans Saints in which it looked like Tampa was going to lose, and they got lucky in a couple of plays and a few plays. However, they are still a very good team, and they were still pretty consistent, even in spite of that variance that we just mentioned, because they finished the season as one of the best teams in defense, one of the best teams on offense. And even if you divide that into categories like run defense, pass defense, they finished as one of the best teams in the NFL all across the board. And we know that at some point it was about week 15 in which they flipped the script and they started to be more aggressive on early downs. And that's when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense took that next step forward. So that is kind of concerning probably, or that is, I'm just playing devil's advocate and saying, like, even though the Tampa got hot at the right time, they were still a very good football team throughout the entire NFL season. TB12 going to be whining all night to get a call from refs. You already know. Now, I love that quote from Oza in which he said, you need to pressure Tom Brady in order to bring his QB rating down, because that is true for just about every quarterback in the NFL. But again, if we're talking about pressured players versus non-pressured players, quarterbacks, and how they perform in those two situations, Tom Brady sees one of the biggest drop-offs in the entire NFL. If you pressure Tom Brady, it's obvious that his efficiency is going to go down, but he still has one of the biggest drop-offs. And that is very obvious because he's not a very mobile quarterback. Their defense is what won those playoffs games, says D-Town. Bruce had to call out Brady at one point, says Paul. I remember that. I remember Bruce Arians throwing Tom Brady under the bus. The referees will be on Tom Brady's side. We have to play hard and make no mistakes. It will be a tough game. Now, William Jones says the Texans won their Super Bowl by defeating the Cowboys in the preseason. The Cowboys could beat Tampa and then go 0-16. We need to lose, says William Jones. So listen, if the Cowboys end up losing when we see each other on Sunday night, I will remember this comment and we will try to be as optimistic as we can. And we will say, hey, it was all part of the plan, so don't worry about that. Yeah, Osa's, there are two reasons why the Cowboys, there are two comments from the Cowboys that might end up motivating Tom Brady, as Jules is saying. Number one is Osa's comment on his QB rating going down if he's pressured. But number two is John Fassel's comment on deflating balls. So that was a cheap shot by John Fassel. And Tom Brady, you know that Tom Brady is just looking for reasons to be extra motivated. So we will see how it goes. Listen, Tom Brady is a very good quarterback, of course. In my opinion, the greatest of all time. I don't know what that comment will cause in the chat, but that's my honest opinion to you. So we will see how it goes. But anyway, my question for me to you guys, now that we have agreed that, well, not agreed, but now that I have told you that, in my opinion, Blake Jarwin is a hidden X factor in this game for the Cowboys offense to perform well enough. My question for me to you guys, and it's actually a low number. I was surprised by this. But in the betting markets, you have the Cowboys over-under at 21 points. So which one are you taking? Will the Cowboys score over or under 21 points? Now, this is the actual number shown in a lot of sports books. Remember, the Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is pretty good. So, and their pace of play might be slow at times, so that might have an impact. I think that a lot of the people in the betting world will play the over for the entire game. But listen, over under 21 points, in my opinion, it's an attractive bet, and it's an interesting one. And I see just overs in the chat. D Town says over, Eliasar says over, Stevie Mack goes with the over. Now, Uncle Charles says take the under in this game. If we're talking about the entire game, it might be actually a smart play because everyone is going to jump on that over. And you know how, now I don't think that the games are rigged, as we were saying earlier in the show, but I do think that the odds makers, they're just very, very smart, especially in these kind of games. So it might be a smart bet if you are a contrarian sports bettor, which is usually a good strategy. Cowboys 26 is Cactus and Tampa Bay 24. Over 21 points, Lamb, Sick, and Coop all score with a few field goals, says Paul. Chase Duke says, I love the Cowboys, calling a lose by 3. Over at Facebook, we had Randall saying over. So a lot of the people agree with the over. Now, I like the over as well for the Dallas Cowboys. For the entire game, I'm not so sure. But I think that a play on the Cowboys over is a smart one. And I also think that in the spread, I would take the spread for the Dallas Cowboys. I would take the points. I don't think they win, but I just don't see the Bucs absolutely blowing out the Cowboys. And this might age poorly. I don't want it to age poorly. But I think one way or another, the Cowboys will find a way to keep it close. Now, that is my opinion, that the Cowboys might cover with the points. However, take a look at how people are betting this game, and it makes a lot of sense because it's a kickoff. It's a Tampa Bay Bucs who just won the Super Bowl, who we have heard all off season long that they are returning 22 starters, that they are returning their head coach and their 2 coordinators. So a lot of people might jump with the favorite on this game, but take a look at the percentage of bets. Now, these numbers are from the Action Network. These are public bets. And the percentage of bets, 60% of them are with Tampa, with the favorite. Now, I've been very intrigued because the line opened at 6.5, basically a touchdown. But it's moved to 7.5, and I've seen a lot of places. Here in a local book, for example, where I live, I just saw it at +8, Cowboys +8. And I think that's a very good number to take, in my opinion, if you think that the Cowboys are going to keep it close one way or another. Now, most people will jump on the Bucs because they trust that this will be a very, very good team. So anyways, William Jones says his smarter bet is to put your money on pro wrestling and roller derby. Those are real sports, says William Jones. So there's that. Usually ain't smart to bet against Brady. Not this time, though. Cowboys by 30, says Osmosis. Okay, so that was a bit of a roller coaster on that comment by Osmosis. Thank you, Osmosis, for being here in the show. By the way, I like Michael Gallup to come up big in this game. I wanted to look for Blake Jarwin's game prop in receiving yards. I will look for it later on the show. The point spread will not be covered, says Limetra Thorough. Cowboys 23, Tampa 20, says Miller. Over here, it will come down to who has the ball last. Hopefully the Cowboys. Let's spoil the Bucs party. Well, listen, if it's a shootout like the one the Cowboys had versus the Denver Broncos in 2013, I'm more than okay with the Cowboys losing. Like, that would be very, very fun. Now, of course, remember, if the Cowboys end up losing to Tampa, it's not the end of the world. It's a 17-game season, and the Cowboys have a relatively easy schedule going forward after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we will see how it goes, but I will also take the over in that question. I need to give an official answer, and I will say over. I'm taking the Cowboys over 21 points. Now, you might get it at 20.5, but the betting odds might be a little bit lower because, well, you know, if you're talking about touchdowns, it's very clear to see the difference between a half point, right? Show Tom Brady what Cowboy football is all about. We ain't scared. Go Cowboys, says Uncle Charles. And Ron is here over here. Everybody acts like the Cowboys are not going to have a chance against them. Remember, they are human too. They can lose. Plus, as we were saying, Tampa had pretty low moments throughout the season, and they, from time to time, especially at the beginning of the year, they were somewhat conservative in their play calling when it comes to passing the ball on early downs. So they might find themselves in difficult spots. If the Cowboys, if they start running the ball every first down, and the Cowboys have even remote success defending the run, which I know it's a big ask for the Cowboys defense because of what we saw in 2020. But if they do a slightly surprising job, they might be in this game as they try to force third and long situations. So Ryan here with the question of the day. Mo, what's your food of choice for Thursday night games? Well, that's an interesting question from Ryan, and I had not thought about this at all. I'm very basic. I will tell you that. When it comes to food, I am very basic. And I will tell you, just because I would hate myself otherwise, but I cannot tell you burgers. I cannot tell you pizza or boneless. I cannot say any of that to you. I'm here to represent, of course, my country, Mexico. I need to give you a Mexican option for you to eat. So nacho or taco Thursday, says Limitra. Hello, Coco says nachos. I will tell you what, though. I don't know if you guys have a name for this. I don't know. I will use the comment chat. Go for montadas. Now, I don't think you will get, because this is not even for all of Mexico. This is special for the north of Mexico, or at least mainly for the north of Mexico. But take a flour, a flour tortilla, beans, meat, of course, and cheese. So do that. Look for a picture of a montado, and then you will have just a great Thursday night, in my opinion. Well, anyways, Wings and Subs, says Paul. I will look for a picture, and I will tweet it out at MAU NFL, MAU NFL, right after we finish this show. So go to my Twitter, and I will tweet out a picture of what a montado looks like, and I'm pretty sure you will like it. So Jules here has a somewhat of a bold prediction. Jalen Smith having a breakout season. Everyone's banking on this being Jalen Smith final season with the Dallas Cowboys. Jules is going the other direction. Jules is coming in with a bold prediction and saying Jalen Smith having a breakout year. Wings and Subs, says Paul. We love Mexican food, says D-Town. I know you do. I know you. Chips and salsa, says David. Chips and salsa. All right, you can do that as well. But make sure it's spicy, though. Real salsa. Father Time will eventually catch up to Tom Brady and Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons will do that. Let's see how Michael Parsons looks in his first NFL regular season game. So anyways, I will see you all tomorrow night. We will be doing this show Sunday through Thursday night, except for the times when the Cowboys play on primetime games, because then you will have Sky and Jesse Holly with you live from Texas Live. And it will be extremely fun to watch them too. So make sure you tune in. Mexican food, awesome. The Jackass team in Washington, D.C. Says William Jones, yeah, I'm interested in what a Montero is now. So, that's the first thing I will do just after I finish this show. So anyways, thank you for joining me on tonight's show. Ivan saying una carne asada. Of course, carne asada. You cannot go wrong there. So go to adcsports.com/Dallas for more Cowboys and Mavericks content. And make sure to tune in tomorrow morning for Sky at 8 a.m. Central Time. And of course, at night tomorrow night for ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. It's a daily show now, and I'm very excited about that. So make sure you like the video, make sure you share. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know that you're watching ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. My name is Mauricio Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me, and have a great night.